Well, ladies and gentlemen, that isn't smoke that you're seeing there. That is steam. My water has come to the boil. So, excuse me a second while I set you down. Needed 2 hands to tear the bag. And there we go. Give it a quick stir. Now, tasty. Tastes like chicken. Okay. Now then, it says, let me get my specs out and I'll read it to you. Terrible when you get old and your arms are no longer long enough. Okay. It says 2 2/3 cups water, 2 tablespoons butter or margarine optional, to a boil in a medium saucepan. Stir in the Carolina rice mix, cover, reduce heat, and simmer for 20 minutes. Remove from heat, let stand about 5 minutes, stir before serving. There you go. Well, let's take another gander inside the pot. I'd say that qualifies as a simmer. Not quite at a boil, but it will come back to the boil in a hurry. So what we're going to do, we're going to slow down the cooking process by turn the pot so as to block most of the airflow. Therefore, now it will simmer and the fire won't come back to a raging blaze, and hopefully the water won't come back to a raging boil. But we'll keep an eye on it and we'll let you know. Ladies and gentlemen, here's another small negative about cooking over this sort of a hobo stove, if you will. Why am I keep getting dripped on? I gotta figure that out. It's hard to control your heat level. I can't seem to get this down to a proper simmer. Oh, I'm close. I mean, cut off the airflow. And it's gone from a boil to just a bare bubble, but it's not at what I consider a simmer. You see here, I'm already preparing my tea in my cowboy coffee pot for this afternoon. So, we'll catch you in a little while. Hey, you what, boys and girls, you talk about a beat up old cowboy coffee pot. Yeah, that kind of is reminiscent of Carl Malden. Oh, I'm sorry. Most of you are too young to remember who Carl Malden was. Anybody heard of the TV series called The Streets of San Francisco? Well, Carl Malden was the old gent who was the elder police officer in that particular program. Look him up on Hulu or whatever and give his movies and whatnot a watch. Because trust me, it's worth it. Just waiting on that tea to come up to a boil, or almost to a boil at least. We'll be back with you. I can't get a proper simmer out of this. It's bubbling away, so here's what I've done. My bucket full of pine needles for tinder. I've stuffed a towel and then an old jacket in there. Old fleece jacket. I'm going to set this on top here. Set that on top. And then I'm going to wrap it. And the towel is going to insulate it and let it simmer. Okay, the towel's just going to insulate the pot and let it sit there and simmer. And while that's simmering away, oh, I got a good bed of coals yet. I'm going to put my grate back on, lose this, and set my hillbilly my cowboy coffee pot on top of the fire, which I've already filled the one thermos full into. Yeah. And this thermos will go into it, which had gotten cold. There we go. 2 thermoses worth of tea to get hot. And on goes a lid. And just like that, we'll have hot tea in a while. However long it takes. And my hair, ladies and gentlemen, I might find a better tarp because, yeah, I don't think it's all just a tarp. I keep running out from under the shelter here. And my hair is just soaked. So is my shoulders and back. So, cooking like this in the rain, well, never fun. But you do what you gotta do to get your lunch. We'll come back in a little while when it's ready to eat. About 15 minutes in the blanket. Let's take a gander. Oh, it looks like it's ready. It's ready. It's a little moister than I would like, but it'll do. So, we're going to leave that there, and I'm going to go sit down and eat. Even though my tea ain't quite ready, ain't quite up to hot. Now, wait a minute, it's starting to steam. We'll wait. I'll get back with you in a little bit. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. See if I can get this to sit well enough. It's lunchtime. No, my tea hasn't finished, but I had to get off my feet. They were killing me. My dogs are just barking up a storm. So, where did I put them down? There they are.
Count. List.
There. Turn it off so the YouTube can't ding me for copyright. Yeah, there we go. So there's what it looks like, folks. Rice with black beans, and of course the ever-present wieners. Now, don't get me wrong, the only reason I do wieners is because they're easy, they're expedient. They're protein to put in my stomach. You know what? Because of that fire back there, we're going to open these windows just a crack. Make sure I don't CO myself right out of here. No. Like I told you earlier, I like this better. I did a rice and beans dish a while back here from another brand. This is better. It still tastes like a bean burrito because of the black beans, of course. But there are more of the beans. They're tenderer than the last batch I did. Still a little short on chicken flavor. Next time I'll add some chicken bouillon to this as well. I wish I had better control over fire the way I do with propane, as opposed to that back there, because the propane, I could have gotten this better cooked than I did. And I could have done it in a shorter period of time. That's what cheeses me off, is how long it took. Especially on a work day. That said, I mean, all 3 of my primary schools are on vacation this week. This is Monday, by the way. Monday, I'm not sure of the date. I'll put it in the description below. So all 3 of my primary schools are on vacation this week. But I have a final tier, as it's called, that I do 3 to 4 days a week. There's a school in another city whose children are picked up and taken to a facility owned by a local college, and they're given help with homework, or they're given crafting to do, or just general babysitting because their parents can't be at home when school lets out. I guess that's the impression I get. Now, some of these parents may send their kids just for the extra help with homework, or whatever the reasoning. That don't matter a whole hoot to me. But I'm tasked with going and taking them home at night. 6 p.m. pickup. Well, I don't mind. These are all like kindergarten through third graders. Whatever works. And it's work. And in this day and age, anybody that turns down 1 minute of work is a fool. The only time I refuse to take a simple job that the boss asks me to handle is if I'm so tired I can't do it. Well, some of these beans aren't quite as done as I would like. That's why I wish I'd had my propane stove going. I don't know if that's just one bean or what it was. Well, good afternoon. One of the drivers heading to a bus. Getting ready to head on out of here. I guess. Yep. She was headed for a bus. Yep. Tasty. Alright. If I do the Carolina beans and rice again, I'm actually going to make a point of picking the beans out and putting them into boil first and let them boil for a while before I add the rice. The rice is done just right. The beans are not. And there are a lot of beans in the Carolina beans and rice recipe, so be prepared, ladies and gentlemen, to either gnaw on undercooked beans or pick the beans out and cook them first. There you go. That's the whole story. Very tasty. Not spicy, not yet. But if spicy becomes a note after I've eaten half of it or more, I'll come back and let you know. In the meantime, I'm going to save space on my card. Peace out. Be right back with you. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's a wet, damp, cold, rainy day. Now, earlier I showed you me gathering some fine, small kindling and such. A couple of pine cones, put a little pine sap on them, just the way I found them. Everything has been out in the rain for the last 48 hours. Except for my tinder, which I will be fetching in a second. And this is what we're doing right here. This is a sign that was given to me. It was considered trash by the person that gave it to me. Same with the other one underneath. My hobo stove. You can see the rain dripping. The only concession to me is that I have left the tailgate of my vehicle up so I have a dry place to stand, personally. That's all. You're about to watch me build a fire, put the new rack to my hobo stove on, and cook lunch over an open fire at work. So just stay with me, boys and girls. What am I thinking about? Why would I waste perfectly good cedar bark that's already been dried when I found these pine cones? I think that was the whole idea of the pine cones, wasn't it? Okay. Let's see if I can get one of them going first. Whoopsie. Too much wind bringing it over to the can, so hang on a minute. Turn you around so you can actually see what I'm doing here. Huh? There we go. Got one pine cone. Whoop, it went out. See, I didn't park the truck in an advantageous position in regards to the wind. There we go. 3 pine cones. I got one of them burning. And they went out on me. And it went out again. Maybe pine cones aren't such a good tinder after all as I thought they might be. Or it's just the wind keeps putting them out on me. We'll find out here in a second. Well, I may have to go get some of my other tinder to get this going. Yeah. Pine cones apparently aren't such a good fire starter as I'd hoped that they would be. Give it one more shot here. Maybe I got it this time. Maybe. Look at that, look at that. Everybody knows fire likes chaos. Right? At least I hope everybody knows that. Guess what? We're going to move the truck back so it covers that thing just a little bit. So hang with me, folks. Okay, that should give us a little shelter from the rain for the fire itself. Look at that thing go. Wow. Okay. And of course the wind is going to blow the smoke right into us, but that's okay. Let it. Figures. Now the whole idea here is to create a bed of coals. That's why I'm piling the wood up so far above the top of the can. So stick with me, folks, and I'll get back to you when we got a good bed of coals to cook on. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. I now have a very well-established fire. Went and found me a couple chunks of hardwood while I was killing time waiting for this thing, and I've incorporated them in as well. And I've got a little bit of that left. There's one chunk. There's another chunk. These are what's left out of the one chunk that I grabbed, they brought over here. And I split those out and threw them in there for longer lasting fuel, because I realized the pine wasn't going to last. So that's what we're at now. Well, that fell all the way through, didn't it? How you like this? That's just from doing that, to protect it from the wind. Well, there we go. And I'll bring you back when I go to putting lunch on the fire. Ladies and gentlemen, that hunk of what's left of a maple burl, it's not nice dry kindling or tinder. This sucker has been laying out there all winter in the wet and the muck, right on the ground. So it's still wet firewood that I've processed. Will it be a little drier inside than it was outside? Sure. But it was just as wet. So there we go. Just like all the other firewood I've got in there was wet. We'll bring you back in a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, what you see here is just because of the weather. You can see how wet my pot has gotten, sitting on top of the fire. I was worried the rain, as you can see here, I've had to move it a little bit. I was afraid the rain would put my fire right out completely. So I moved it, gave it a little bit of shelter of its own, hoping the water would then come to a boil. What we have here, some butter and some wieners in the water. And what we're having for lunch today, boys and girls, Carolina, black beans and rice. That's what we're going to have today. And it says, homemade zesty in 20 minutes. Well, that's if the water ever comes to the boil for me. There you have it. And we'll get back to you when we get it a little closer ready to eat. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let that be a lesson learned for me. I've never used a hobo stove like this before. Never cooked in a big number 10 can like this before. I thought I'd be able to set Big Blue right on top of the can and cook. I found out it don't work that way. I gotta have that rack. All it did was smolder and smoke. Well, now I've got the rack under it, and that's allowing for airflow under the pot. Now that I've gotten a tarp over it so that it quits getting wet, let's have a look-see inside the pot. Mind you, just water, butter, and wieners so far. It ain't quite at the boil yet, but it's a lot closer than it was. So I'll tell you this. I started this at about 12:30. It's now 1:45. Conclusion. Cooking on wood of this manner is in no way, shape, or form fast. Nor is it convenient, like my Coleman camp stove with propane. It takes a long time to bring water to the boil over a wood fire. This is something I haven't heard or seen another YouTuber tell you yet. Now, I knew about cooking on wood fire since I was a child, but I've never done it this way. It's always been either an open fire in a pit with a grate over it, or it's been on a wood stove. I mean a real cast iron or steel wood stove in the house, where you have proper draft set up already. This is, like I say, this is a completely new experience for me. So, as I learn it, I'll show it to you. I can tell you I managed to burn the coating off the top part of that can already. We're going to have to turn it over tomorrow and maybe burn out the bottom to get rid of that. And then I can probably stove black it after that, as soon as I get a chance. And that will prevent the metal from rusting completely away in a hurry. And that's the only reason I will bother. Because like I said, I went through probably 6 or 8 Dremel wheels minimum cutting this can out like this. Okay, I'll get back to you when the rice goes in.